Hello everyone, welcome to the Power Play with CJ. Trying to focus in on the Florida Panthers firing Gerard Gallant last night. Obviously, after the loss to Carolina, Florida was 96, 65, and 25, and 2 full seasons and change. With him behind the bench, definitely. I don't want to say it is a shock, but at the same time, there's been trouble brewing within that organization because they've got the hockey people versus the non-hockey people, and ownership's going in a different direction than the hockey people want to. Gallant's kind of been vocal about, there's some things you could, do a little bit different to help me coach this team. And obviously, I think the way the ownership group works is, if you step out of line, you're not on this team. Very militaristic in that respect. And again, I think Gallant's a hell of a coach. He's well liked by his players. He's well respected around the league. And he's done a good job with that team in South Florida, and really helped mold them last year. And this year they were off to kind of a shitty start, and it's still early enough in the season where they can turn it around. I'm absolutely convinced of that, and I still think they have the pieces to be a contender. But this team is time is a flat circle with the Florida Panthers. I think I've come to know that. I think hockey fans ever come to know that. Every time they take a step forward, they end up taking 2 steps back. Right when it looks like they're about to break through and be that, legitimate contender, they do something like this. And, I think the tension between, front office, ownership, and Gallant reached a boiling point. And the fact that the Panthers are 11, 10, and 1 through 21 games, through 3 games. That math doesn't make sense. It's like, all right, well, we're not playing up to standards. You want to be out of line. Now, there's the unemployment line. And I think that the picture of him waiting for the cab with Mike Kelly as assistant coach from the St. John Sea Dogs was pathetic. I mean, I think Ray Ferraro tweeted, they couldn't have like an Uber waiting for him, to get him from A to B. Just not a good look on behalf of the Panthers. And, it's not his fault the team's where it is in the standings. I think that there are some things that the squad could do differently, and I think players that are pretty good aren't playing up to their standards. Looking at you, Aaron Ekblad. We'll talk more about that later on, but definitely a tough set of circumstances for the now former Florida Panthers head coach. The replacement is GM Tom Rowe, who was in Portland last year, the AHL, and now is an NHL head coach. That's kind of a quick / general manager. That's interesting. Really kind of quick turnaround there, but we'll see what happens. Definitely never been an NHL head coach. He's 60 years old, Lynn, Massachusetts native, so yeah. Get the Mass-Hole connection going on. We'll see what happens. Again, I do not like this move for the Panthers. I think it was foolish, and I think they will regret it. Now, I say that they'll go on to win the Stanley Cup, but given my history predictions, but this is just one of those things. There's something's not right, and I think it's going to derail what should be a pretty good season for a pretty good team in South Florida. But anyway, that's all I got in this episode of the Power Play with CJ. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the season and beyond. Later, guys.